Every Thursday, 4 to 6?
4 to 6 at O'Connor's.
O'Connor's.
Free beer too, right?
Ah, man.
You know, Kevin's one of those entrepreneurs that figures out you actually need, revenue. On top
Well,
of
it's an
all-
opportunity to get together with some of your people, so that's good. All right, so we have Marguerite Inscoe today to talk about her business, and I'll let her have it.
Thank you guys, I'm excited to be here. I'm a person blessed with a name that I have to spell every time I tell somebody about it over the phone. And no nicknames either. But I am Inscoe Consulting. And I think it makes sense for me to start off with a little bit of background about who I am as a person, since I'm a solopreneur here with Inscoe Consulting. I am a resident here in Hampton Roads, lived in Norfolk for over the last 20 years. Old Dominion University is what brought me this direction. So in '99, I graduated with a degree in business administration, and then in 2006 with a degree in technical and occupational studies, which is a really weird name for what is adult education in the workplace. So that made a lot of sense with the profession I was in at that time, which was workplace consulting. I'll get to that in just a second, though. I think it makes sense to share with you a little bit who I am personally, which is a wife and a mom. I've been married for 19 years, and I have 2 kids. My daughter is 8. She's a junior in Girl Scouts and a brown belt in Taekwondo. And my son is 10, and he loves to bang on the piano and play with our microwave. He's special needs, and he is just a real angel. Everybody loves him, and he's the joy of my life. I also take care, for right now, my disabled sister. I'm her guardian. So as you can imagine, I stay pretty busy. But professionally, my background, as I mentioned earlier, was workplace consulting. So for about 10 years, I helped create custom training programs to manage the performance of people in the workplace. All different kinds of businesses around here, new hire training, sales training, communications training. But what brought me to Fractional Chief Marketing Officer, that's the title I have for me now, was when I stepped into the marketing role. And as you can imagine, adult education and marketing really go hand in hand. So about 8 years ago, I was wading in waters in freelance type of work, helping friends and family, and then I thought I need to make more money, so I made it a business. And for 5 years, I led a small agency working with a number of contractors, and it started off kind of locally focused, helping local businesses, but eventually it turned into a national client base and doing digital marketing, and that was lots of fun. I merged in with a company in Madison, Wisconsin, was with them for some time. They launched a new brand, which was local focused, so I said, let me go check out what's going on here in Hampton Roads, and I discovered that what is happening here has changed a lot in the last 4 to 5 years. And that's what leads me today to Inscoe Consulting, because I recognize a need for businesses that are growing here. So let me tell you a little story. There's Joe and Susie. They run a great business. They work so hard to bring it together, and they've got a real gem in terms of their product and service that nobody else is doing the way that they do it. And they are ready to get it out there in a big way to other businesses across the country or throughout their state. And it's not just a little growth, they're thinking really big in their trajectory for a couple of reasons. First of all, they want to get to profitability really quickly with their new brand, and they want to stay ahead of the competition. But their biggest question is, how are we going to actually do this? They put together this business, they're not business developers, it's not what they do full time. Matter of fact, they don't really have any experience. So what happens, and this is typical of a lot of brands that hit the growth stage, is they just start kind of putting things together. Not really strong infrastructure like these wooden bridges here. There's not really strong alignment between sales and marketing. There's cracks where opportunities are falling through. It can't handle a lot of traffic. And it's really a struggle, especially for these brands that know that the potential's out there and they're just not sure how to accomplish that. I mean, what they're looking for is a reliable way to cross that gap or bridge that gap that they can depend on. Now, of course, really good bridges also have to manage the environment and be ready to tackle with flow, traffic flow, and weather, but something that's going to get them over there, what they're doing to all their businesses, that would be their dream come true. And that's where Inscoe Consulting comes in, with what I call a strategy document. And this document, when it comes to strategy, looks at the business model and the market that business is going after and says, this is the framework for your business development. I have an ebook where I describe this in detail. There are 3 frameworks: hunting, nurturing, and closing. If you don't work within the right framework for your business, you're gonna really struggle. So we identify the correct strategy, and then I do an analysis to see how ready they are to actually implement that strategy. So we're talking about client identification and tools and processes that are in place. Do they have the right talent? It's actually very measurable. Here's where you are on the scale of to 10 for this one area. Maybe with talent you've got a 3. You really need to be an 8 or 9 if you want to do this well. And then there's the plan to execute. Now, money is a big deal. A lot of people can't pay for consulting, in addition to sales and marketing. So what I do is scaled to revenue. It's a flat fee for the document and then hourly fees. My business model is not just the document, but also I work with service delivery partners, and coming soon is a new training program. To be debated or discussed. It's still, it's gonna be different though, nothing like it's happening here in Hampton Roads. And I do presentations, so check out my one page on my website. They're complimentary for your association or nonprofit. And then also on my website, download this ebook I mentioned and take a look at an example strategy document. And that's it, folks. Anything you can do to help me to be #1, if I'm not already, in Hampton Roads as a B2B sales and marketing consultant, I would love your thoughts or suggestions. All right, guys, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions. That was the fastest 6 minutes ever. By the way, it's the fastest I've ever practiced that. So.
Good job, right? 7 seconds to spare.
Oh, good. Good. I didn't want to get the cane. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, do you start with, when you start discussing strategy, do you start with core values and making sure they have those in place?
Yeah, they need to have all that in place. So I would say there's a lot of qualifications for me to really help a business in that growth stage. So we're not talking startup, good ideas kind of thing, although I can certainly provide a lot of advice there. But when someone's hitting the growth stage, a business or a brand, and just to clarify, a brand can be part of an established business. They're just launching something new they haven't done before. They need to have a ready and willing workforce that can make adaptations to their processes and tools. They need to have clear market goals. I'm not here to help you identify your market. I'm here to help you accomplish the markets that you're going after. And you need to have a scalable product. And I think to make all that happen, you have to have really sound values and, you know, why are we here and what are we trying to accomplish and what is my vision for the next 5 years, ideally. Here I am now as a business or a brand. I know year 1 I need to be looking like this, so in year 5 it may be completely different, but they already know kind of the general stepping stones of where they're going to. When those kind of things aren't in place, there's just a lot of floundering, and then what do you think, Marguerite? And then I tell people how to run their business? No, I don't want to do that. And I don't. But they ask me, so I say no, it's your business. Thank you for asking that. Yes, sir.
You're in the consulting business, basically,
Yes.
and there are thousands of people in the consulting business. And so how do you separate yourself from all the others? What is your, as they say in the business, distinctive competence? You know, what's so special about you that would attract, that would distinguish you from all the others?
Yes. Thank you for asking. So besides my hopeful wit and charm, I definitely depend on, I would say, 2 very important distinctions. Number 1, I just focus on your sales and marketing for your B2B brand. That's it. So it's not operations, it's not financial, you know, those things already need to be in place. Number 2, you can tell I've kind of productized what I'm delivering. Maybe I can back it up here a little bit. With the flat rate and with the strategy document. Because the strategy document only takes a couple of weeks to write. And then in the plan, phase 1 covers here's what you do to get ready, and phase 2 is execution. So really everything's there for a business to use, and if they want to continue working with me, they can, or they can just take the document and run. It's pretty detailed. But because it's productized, the resources section, I can just kind of repeat as needed based on the client. It is customized to them, but there's a lot of templated stuff that I've already pulled together resource-wise. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, a follow-up. How do you market? How do you market yourself? How do you let the world know that you're out there and could be helpful to them?
Right now what I'm doing is I'm building connections. I am not myself, in terms of, they talked about that business owner and they want to grow really fast and, that's not me, that's not my business. I have a lifestyle business. So it's more about, within my network, finding the right people that want to work for me. And,
So your lifestyle, so you're not looking for investors?
no,
Right.
no, that's correct, I'm not. But I am looking to help businesses that obviously work with investors. And, I think I answered your question.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great, Gary.
Is that those numbers on your website?
It is. So that's another thing, yeah. Flat rate, upfront pricing. Yep. Yes, sir.
So it's a lifestyle model. How do you measure your progress?
How do I measure
Number of
progress?
clients, revenue, project scope, what is making progress for you?
Probably it would be focusing on how successful each client is. I think that's a better way to look at it. Now, I'm not saying this is lifestyle forever by any means. It's just for right now, a little bit about my personal life. And I did work full-time for an agency. Wasn't really ideal. Things will change here soon. But I think what's more important is that my clients see their successes. And it's something I imagine I'll be doing indefinitely. There's no reason, even if things shift for me professionally in other ways. It's what I have a passion for.
I have a follow-up then, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because this is something new to me. Because I'm an investment banker by background, and we're driven by matrices,
Yes.
numbers and so forth.
Yes.
And what the millennial stage is really lifestyle.
Yes.
And that's why I'm trying to understand that. So you're driven by quality rather than the quantity.
That I deliver to clients, but for
Well, your
clients, it's very
happiness-
measure driven.
Clients' happiness and content with their making progress, however they measure it. That's how you measure your success, through them. Is that what I hear?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Yeah, and theirs is measurable. So the plan, for example, can document within very closely to when they can start reaching certain revenues that they want to accomplish. Because if you understand the sales cycle and from like start to finish on average, and they should have enough experience at that point, because when you hit the growth stage, you've already been interacting with clients for some point. It takes 6 months maybe from first contact to close a deal, and what those milestones are in between. And if they get the infrastructure in place and they start executing at the volume that they have planned, it's a very safe way to estimate their progress and see that they're getting a return on what they're investing. That's another big thing too, especially at the growth stage. Well, we need to put in $30K this year. Yeah, if you want to earn, hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever they feel it is. I usually work on that 10% thing. You need to invest about 10% about what you expect in growth ahead of time. And if you're not counting the numbers ahead of time, then don't be spending that money. And I know that investors would like to see that kind of information. Matter of fact, I would love to speak to any of you investors that would share with me what they're looking for when it comes to a business in their growth stage, and they put the plan in front of you and they say, hey, you want to chip in? What kind of things do you look for? And I can make that happen. I think I already have a good idea, but I always want to know more. Yes?
You speak about marketing and sales, and kind of hit the marketing strategy part hard. Can you speak a little bit to what you do on the sales side?
Sure. So hunting, nurturing, and closing, those frameworks incorporate sales and marketing together. So hunting is when you're basically just going out there cold calling. That's what the salesperson does. So you're cold calling, knocking on doors. And what the marketing department does is they're working on the brand, the website and social media. You can see that they're not really kind of working together. And in my ebook, I describe here's some practices to help with lead generation, but also to help close deals faster. Nurturing is account-based sales and marketing. Those two are very similar, but it's just there's arms or practices that the marketing department does compared to what the sales department does. And then closing is inbound marketing and consultative selling. So those two work together very nicely hand in hand.
So you're talking about aligning their sales strategy with the marketing strategy. So really it's fractional marketing officer as opposed to any kind fractional sales officer?
What I do, I think CMO is ones that people recognize. I mean, I didn't want to make a too long title, fractional CMO and VP of sales, that would be too long. But I help with sales enablement. So it's looking at the sales process that's already in place and how can we make improvements to speed the close of the sale and make sure that people aren't falling out of the pipeline. That, along with marketing, them working hand in hand is where the most success is. So I don't do sales coaching. I don't design your sales process. That should already be in place. So there's some things that I don't do, but I recommend. So you can see how that's definitely consultative level. Thank you for asking about the sales side, because I didn't share very much about that. Yes?
For the type of expertise that you have, do you focus on any particular industries? Because obviously throughout industries, sales and marketing techniques are different from industry to industry. So is there a particular niche within the industry that you focus on, or is it more broader? And then if you're not familiar with that industry, kind of bone up to provide your services?
That's a good question, and a lot of people do like to ask me that. It's kind of funny, as a marketer, I'm like, you have to pick your segments where you're gonna do business. I'm like really hot to trot on that segmentation. My segmentation is not by industry though. It is all about where the business or the brand is in terms of timing and the stage of life that they're in. So it's just before that growth stage, not the startup stage. If they're established and they just need to do 5% more next year, this doesn't really make any sense, because they just need to tweak some processes or hire better people. I'm talking more about the businesses that don't have some sort of executive function that's overseeing their sales and marketing, and because they can't afford to. That's why the fractional part makes sense. But they need to make things happen in a big way. So I am agnostic to type of industry. I've had, fortunately, a broad experience with many industries, and probably, I know this may sound kind of weird, but having a fresh eye on certain things, someone that isn't involved, let's say, in certain industries day in and day out, I come in with a whole different perspective to help realign things that it's difficult if you're always working in that industry the whole time to do as successfully. Yes?
So you focus or try to focus your clients on companies that have products or services? And the reason I ask is, in my time with Booz Allen, it's two different ways of going about it. In both camps, service people and product people like to buy stuff, tools.
Yeah.
So Booz Allen would always build a tool that would be part of whatever they got once they finished their consulting engagement.
Yeah. I find most every business, just like mine, has more than one kind of service delivery, but they work together really well. So is there a B2B company that just does services and not products, or just products and not services? It doesn't exist anymore. I think it has to be all taken into account. But it really depends on what the contracts are that need to be closed for that brand. So where they're growing. Is it a combination of service and products, which I find most often? Then that's what we work on. That's the best way to make money. Services and products. And consulting. Three-legged charm right there.
So what's a strategy document? I mean, what are you putting together?
The strategy document?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to go into a lot of detail, but it has primarily those three sections that I described. A diagnosis of what is the appropriate framework for that brand in terms of growing their sales and marketing side. So what is their business development, if you want to kind of use like an overall term, that's going to be best for them in terms of their growth goals. And then their readiness is a big deal, because I find a lot of businesses are like, okay, now we're going to start marketing. And it's like, oh, I guess we need to go get a CRM, or I guess we need to get some marketing automation, or I guess we need to do a better job with our branding, or something like that. Or it could just be internally, well, we need a blog. We need to start blogging. Just to start blogging, that falls apart the first time you write your first blog, right? And you need to be pumping out 5 a month of really good stuff. You need to have some sort of process in place. You need a content ideation process. You need to have the right talent to pull it all together, because it's website developer, and it's an editor, and there's some sort of graphic design, and there's SEO involved. So these kind of things have to be taken into account. So that's an example
But
of
you don't
readiness
look
that I
at the
look
business
at.
model at all?
Oh, yeah. So that's the part with the framework at the beginning that I talked about for their business development. It's based on their business model and the markets that they're going after. So those are the two primary things that I look at. And it really clicks. See, I've been doing this for, okay, not an extraordinary amount of time, but I've been in the sales and marketing world for about 10 years. I've been to a lot of conferences, and I haven't seen somebody really break down this the way that I do, because it's what I do professionally as an educator and a trainer, is I look at information and how people do things, and then I put it into a format where it's like, oh, and then it's obvious. People that look at it are like, think probably somebody else wrote it. It's like, no, this has never existed before until I just wrote it, but this has always been evident in the workplace. So business model is huge, huge factor.
Well, 10 years you've been doing it, don't you have some testimonials or something? I mean, that would help, you know, if you helped grow this business X. I mean, most people in the world want metrics of some sort,
Sure.
you know.
I have a lot of client experience in marketing from my history, but Inscoe Consulting just started here in June. So I've got clients underway, but not testimonials yet.
Gotcha.
I would say the most recent client that I worked with that we did finish, and they're very happy about it and it's underway, is Cooper Hurley, the law firm. Now, I know they're not B2B, but they have a really great marketing department, and they had some pretty good goals for this year to accomplish, making some big changes. And I'm very happy to say they called me and asked me to write that plan for them. Yes?
I would take it from a little different direction. As a new consulting entity, what have been some of the challenges that you face in launching your company and your goals in growing it? Is there a strategy that you have for yourself in your business? So I'd like to hear something.
So the challenges that I've had in launching it and some goals that I have for myself.
Yeah.
So far I haven't had any challenges, but I don't think I've been doing this long enough to have those, other than the fact that I've already ran a business before, so I've already learned from those lessons. And I know, like I said, pricing is a really big factor in terms of people's ability to hire a consultant. So that scaling the pricing and making it flat rate and upfront is, I think, a big differentiator with what I have to do. Now, I'll have to stick around a little bit longer to see how well that proves out on the market, but I'm definitely willing to give it a try. Goals that I have in mind. Oh, one important goal, and this is where I would definitely love some feedback from you guys if you feel like you've got some perspective on this, is to implement some really solid training programs. I like to call them clinics that are not currently available here in Hampton Roads, at least to the extent of what I've researched. It's complementary to that. When I talk, there's a lot of startup training, available through SCORE, available through ODU's programs, and I've interacted with all of these. I'm a member of SCORE, and I'll be part of the Accelerate 757 mentoring team here in the fall. So I know all that stuff's great, but what doesn't exist is companies being able to work on themselves in an environment where they're fixing their business development operations. A lot of training is more tactical for individuals. Here's how you do social media. Here's how you write a blog post. Those kind of things don't really matter if you don't understand how to fundamentally change your business from the outside and get your sales and marketing department working together with the CEO and everybody driving the same direction in terms of goals and what's our messaging and how much effort we're going to put into it. So that's what I'm excited about most bringing out here soon.
GPS signal lost.
Do you only work with businesses that already have their own marketing team in place, or do you help give them a strategy and help them outsource their needs?
Yeah, help them outsource it. So they may already have some structures in place, or they may not. If there isn't a dedicated salesperson, I would say that they're not ready at that growth stage. There has to be at least one salesperson, and not the business owner, because they've got too much going on. So that's part of my qualification for helping out. Now, larger organizations need help too. They have the same issues as smaller businesses. They really do. Marketing and sales are very siloed, typically, within companies, and for them, just ticking up the sales side, just enabling sales a little bit more, makes a difference tremendously in revenue. In my opinion, is if you help the salespeople win, the whole company wins.
So it sounds like you're not selecting any particular industry, but if I were a client, I would wonder if you had experience in that, in my industry, or maybe the food industry works different than manufacturing or services. How do you give your customer confidence or is it one size fits all really when you start talking about marketing B2B?
No, it's different per industry. I usually talk about the experience that I have within their industry and show them examples of work that I've done with other clients. So I found so far in just talking to people, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly what we need, because they don't want to sit there and figure this stuff out. They really would like a roadmap, and I don't talk to them, go home and make some magic and come back and put it in front of them and say do it. It is a collaborative process that they're 100% excited about executing. It's just I have most of the ideas, and then they say if they like it or not. Yes, sir.
Yes, but do you have any trouble learning the language of such a wide variety of industries? They have their own culture, and they're radically different.
Yeah.
And yet you need to understand everyone in detail before you can really help them. And so, are you a quick study, or
Yep.
do you go home and search the internet for how business is conducted in this particular sector and learn all the words that they use in that industry, and they're all quite different. It's just odd, but and impressive that you can handle all these different languages.
Well, probably I should clarify. I don't have to get in the weeds to help people make strategic decisions. So someone that's executing the marketing, let's say that they're writing that blog post, they need to have all that terminology down really solid. I just need to understand at a higher level exactly who their client base is. And there is some language or terminology that we have. Matter of fact, that's a lot of what I have to help them solve in their structures, and business development structures, is how are we defining people in different stages of the sales process or marketing process? What do they look like, and what are we calling them? So it does all kind of pull together in that manner. I am a quick learner, but again, at the same time, it's not my first rodeo. I've already had a lot of experiences in many different industries, so I haven't come across a situation yet that was completely foreign to me. But I don't really do anything in the, let's say, not-for-profits, and I don't really do anything, in the Department of Defense. This is all just B2B. So after a while, you see a lot of the same things.
Is there any way of quantifying your services? Like, okay, I'm a business and, mid-sized business, kind of startup, I have a product and I spend this much money, basically return on investment. Like, if I spend $10,000 on your services, what should I expect? Like, do you have any reference to that? Now, you just mentioned that you had only one client so far. Is there any way to quantify that? Assuming that they do what you advise.
So probably the best way to start off is no one's ever going to spend $10,000 with me. I don't have that business model. Secondly, what they get, they take ownership of. I'm not responsible. I can't take the responsibility of someone's success or failure in business. The plans that I help them write, or that I write for them, but they help create, the strategy that they use, it's completely their decision to do that. I haven't had anybody ever in the middle of something say, forget all this, I'm not doing it. But they take full ownership of it. The way I look at it is I'm taking a business from maybe a couple $100,000 a year to $750,000 in a year or two's time. For them to invest a few $1,000s in a strategy document to get them kicked off is minuscule.
So, like, basically, I have a product. Usually, what we get here is somebody have a product there, and they have it mostly ready, but they need to market it and all that stuff. So, startup business, they have a good product, and how much will they spend with your services, and what should they expect?
So we saw that.
That kind of, we can just click it.
Yeah, sure. So for solopreneurs, and a good example is I'm working right now with a commercial real estate appraiser who has a vast amount of experience in the business, just simply needed a very straightforward plan for creating the 25K a month that he would like to accomplish. That's a really easy one for me to pull together for him strategy-wise, and it's $1,000 for that document. And then he's also hired me to follow up on a regular basis with him just to make sure he's tacking correctly, and he's hired someone to actually execute the marketing side. There's no sales process in that type of business model there. It's pretty much just request for a proposal, and then he gets selected or not. But if you look at some of the larger businesses here, we're looking at strategy documents leading up to $5,000. I mean, it could be more if it was a larger company, but when you start looking at companies that get outside of this realm, they've already got internal resources to manage all of this. So I'm thinking of who are the companies, obviously, that don't have the ability at a VP level to have someone with their sales and marketing. That's a good way to identify them.
So in startup stage or growth stage, they say $1,500, and how long does it take for you to prepare this document? How much are you working together?
Usually about just a couple of weeks. It can happen pretty quickly. Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't take a lot of time for me to analyze where they are and where they need to go. Now, the larger companies, it will take more time because I have to talk to the sales team and things.
GPS signal
So
lost.
$1,500, a couple of weeks, we have the document, and then what are the charges? What's the contract hourly rates? What do I get with those follow-up meetings? Is that what it is?
Kind of use it as they need to. We identify in the strategy document where they feel like they're going to need the most help, where things get a little tricky.
Okay.
And they'd like the most guidance.
Right.
Yeah, so that's determined ahead of time. I help people based on their budget that they have set and any other constraints that they have. Now, I'll tell them if it's unreasonable. Like, no, you can't run a business and do all the selling. That's not reasonable. So we need to come up with a different plan. You need to bring in a salesperson if you want to accomplish these goals you have in mind. Yes.
So at the end, do you help them calculate ROI based on the money that they've spent, or how does that work? Do you have some kind of metric?
I can help them estimate that, for sure. I like to do ROI based on campaigns. So that you can think of marketing as two different forms, builder campaigns and driver campaigns. Builder campaigns is focused on building your reputation, especially online, and organic traffic is a great example of that. Now, ROI with builder campaigns, that's something that's really, I would say, more of a fixed investment. But when you come to driver campaigns where you're focused on lead generation, then that's where you want to do some look ahead of time. If I'm going to spend this much on advertising and then build this set of content to put out there, you know, what am I putting into it? So that done ahead of time, and I've got some really good tools to walk clients through to
So you
help them do
provide
that.
those for your clients?
Yes, I have a lot of tools and templates to help speed processes up. I make videos too, because I find I repeat a lot of the same things all the time, and there's no reason for me to do that if, you know, they can find it elsewhere. Sometimes I just pull stuff off the internet. They just don't know that it's there. See, it's all about being a resource is really the biggest thing. Yes, sir?
Your contract hourly rate changes based on the revenue model?
Yes. How much revenue they make, yeah.
So if I look online and I'm doing $5 million in business, I'm gonna pay a lot more for the same advice somebody's paying for $75 an hour.
I don't work with any companies that are 5 million.
Yeah, but still, even at a $1 million revenue, your hourly rate should be the same whether or not you're helping. You're saying because I'm more successful, you're charging me, your time is worth more money. I just don't see how, like if I looked on your website and saw that, I probably wouldn't call you. Because your advice should be the same to the startup all the way through the end. You should be charging the same. I mean, that's just.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I know, it's debated back and forth. So thinking otherwise, or why this process came up, because I completely agree. Your pricing sets a lot with your value. When you have lower prices, it says what you have to offer isn't as good. But truthfully, the complexity between these companies in terms of the size of them varies greatly. And then.
But you're basing on a 60-minute timeline of what you're worth. What you're worth, not of what the complexity of the business. So if you're charging me 2 hours to do a startup or 20 hours to do a already built business, I'm already paying you 10 times the value of your time. What I'm saying is you're having a hard time staggering price like that, in my opinion.
All right, well, what's a good way you think that I could test that out?
I wouldn't advertise it like that,
Yeah, I just.
right? You could charge whatever you want as a client-to-client basis, But you don't have to tell the next guy or gal, hey, I'm charging them only 20% of what I'm charging you. Then
Yeah,
everybody's happy and you're getting your revenue and
I didn't know
you're
that.
able to get revenue from small companies who can't afford what you
Yeah,
really
see,
like
it's
to get paid.
disclosed. Wouldn't you have an
Let me ask, I just wanna make sure I understand who I'm talking to. Are you guys, what is your background? Are you a business, or are you looking at this through the business owner lens, or is this more through the lens of maybe as an investor?
You being
or
successful, you can't have a broke down price like that. So you charging me $50 to wash my poodle or $200 to wash my Great Dane? You're charging by the hour, and you say, okay, an hour washing is $50, 4 hours is 200. You're still getting the same pricing because you're comparing two different things. But your time value is 60 minutes. It doesn't matter how complex a company is,
Well,
in my opinion.
There is one thing though, usually the big companies get the advantage in anywhere else.
Yeah.
So this actually, this model will help the smaller businesses. So if you're a big business, you probably are not gonna use these services. So
I wouldn't advertise that pricing.
That's
I see.
maybe,
Yeah.
I mean,
You're gonna
The
probably-
document part makes sense for the complexity, absolutely, but he's right. I mean, an hourly fee is an hourly fee, and
You do it on an individual contract basis.
Yeah, I wouldn't advertise it.
You're thinking maybe within the proposal, or
Be
as opposed
discreet
to on
about
the
it.
website?
Yeah, because if I'm looking at that,
You know what I could do is I could just take the numbers off that say that it's scaled to your revenue, and then no one knows the wiser.
Yes, they do.
Nobody's reading
I know
that.
what scale means.
No.
Yeah.
Well, they should. I want smaller businesses to understand that this is something that is available to them, because
Yeah.
my experience talking with a lot of them is that again, affordability is a huge deal. And to me, providing a few hours of some really good insight, it doesn't matter, because I definitely take with what you're saying. That makes a
Take
lot of
the
sense, but
second
it's,
two
Give
columns
them
since
a
I got a,
discount.
Leave the first column, take the next two columns out.
yeah.
or put a
Oh,
price
okay.
Yeah.
like $90. But see, if you put the price too high, none of the startups are gonna come to you. If you put it too low, then you are basically reducing your reputation.
yeah.
But maybe you can take it out, just like you said, but, and then
Nobody's asking
say
for
that
that.
there's services like that.
Yeah, take off the last two.
Yeah, you're selling a package.
Just say you have an hourly fee, you just don't have to put what it is.
All right, I like that
They need
idea.
to contact you if they're
Well,
interested. And I don't know, you might
Yes.
find that you're gonna spend a lot more time with these startups who have no idea what they're doing. In the end, like 6 months from now, it'd be interesting, you might wanna charge them more.
Yeah.
And these seasoned people, they know what
You
they've
might
gotta
reverse
get.
the scale.
It just seems like it might need to go the other
Yeah.
way.
That's a good
I almost
point.
think you need to package your, what is your target that you want to make, and that should be your target amount, and that you have packages available for startups, and let them wonder if that's a special package. I don't know, I mean, but this is, it would make people not want to
It's
come.
offensive
It's almost
looking
like
at
you
it.
don't want the successful businesses, because your focus, your best price is for just independent, and so if that's who you really are targeting, then this is gonna help you get that first line, independent person, and kind of leave those out. It feels that, you know, because by making it so much more expensive for your large business, I don't know, it's.
I would lie to you about my revenue. You're not gonna look at it anyway.
Well,
Well, I mean, you're charging 50% more from
Yeah.
an independent professional to a $100,000 business.
if someone's lying to me at the start of a conversation, that's never gonna work out in the long run anyway. I'm not gonna do business with them.
Well, maybe then you can keep yours like in the startup stage, and then, you know, you can say that you have price available for bigger businesses, and then your excuse can be, well, you mentioned that you are only one person. So if you didn't, then you can say, well, there's gonna be more people working on it. And I don't know, maybe you will need more people working on it. Maybe you need some, team.
You have a negotiable hourly fee, but, that's right, that is
I like
discriminatory.
that term, that's a good one. Negotiable hourly fee based on, the size of the business, I like that.
Yeah, you shouldn't publish your rates in advance, because you need to assess the value of your service to the company based on the problems that they have.
Right.
And your service, could be very valuable or marginally helpful, depending on the nature of the problem, regardless of the size of the company. So you need somebody to get in the door, understand their problem, and then you evaluate the value to them.
Yes.
And for each consulting engagement, rather than having a broad price range that does not reflect the seriousness of the problem that you are addressing.
What you're describing, I'm very familiar with, value-based pricing,
Yeah.
and something I've done before in the past.
Well, it's
So
time to
this
do it again.
Yeah, bring it back out.
So I have reasons not doing that, at least to explore, because value-based pricing is a very intensive sales process. It's highly consultative. And sometimes people just need a solution that really, at least a strategy document, is not very hard for me to pull together. And I look at the follow-up behind that as being more valuable than anything. So sometimes just getting the foot in the door with that flat price. Now again, this is for those, small to medium companies. So I'm not opposed to value-based pricing, but I have some reasons why I haven't gone that direction, at least at this time.
If I were an entrepreneur in a startup, I would be nervous about this hourly fee, because I really don't know what does that mean and how many 10, 20, 30 hours is that gonna rack up? And I wonder if you could offer packages.
Oh yeah, I do.
Kind of like what Bob's saying here, I mean, and so that incorporates, and you say, and this includes how many hours, you do this for your startup, and it kind of figures out what you're gonna spend. And you don't have to show all this discrepancy here. You just give people pricing according to what you're gonna need to do for them.
In the proposal, it offers 3 different options. And one of them is just the strategy document, and then it's 2 other levels of consultative hours afterwards. They can prepay for those hours in a contract, and they don't, they get a better price than if it's just sort of ad hoc, pull me in whenever type of thing. So now how much help they need consultatively with execution is not always self-evident, because we haven't even written the plan yet. But my experience has been with clients, I just keep working with them, and they keep hiring me additional hours as needed. So I think it's important for them, because it's very scary to sign large contracts with someone who's kind of got their business in my hands, sort of thing. They really want to be able to break away easily if it's just not making sense. That's what I've seen with startups and new brands. So it's creating that flexibility too. I'm very relationship oriented when it comes to business.
I suspect you'll figure out your pricing. I got a different perspective. When you say you're offering a strategy document,
Yes.
your initial ones with small companies will, I'm guessing, be pretty straightforward, right? They don't know how to do it, you do it, it's done. You can do it for that price, not too much labor. I've had consulting engagements, one was 6 months, where the consulting agreement initially was do all the stuff that they should do after I finish what I did for them. So I rewrote it and said, I'm not gonna do all this unless you wanna do this, right? Another one was, recently for a 6-continent company. What they really wanted me to do is provide them ammunition so he could justify to his boss what he was already doing. That was a big deal. That was not clear at the outset.
Yeah.
And the other one is to be at work, not small ones, they don't understand metrics, Got a larger company who's already got business metrics and stuff.
Yes.
If it's this kind of business and you're coming at it from that kind of business, I had one engagement where I did the 6-8 month project with a team of 3 or 4 folks, and made a nice report, flew out, did the report and all that. It turns out that the metrics we offered that were what they needed were not what they were already using, and they didn't want something new and different that would help them, in our view, of course.
Yes.
What they wanted was something to support what they were already doing
Yes.
in ongoing projects which I had nothing to do with. It's really helpful if you can figure that out before you sign the engagement.
I completely agree. We ran across that issue extensively in the consulting with the workplace learning and performance. Lots of Band-Aid requests for training and implementing things that they really didn't need. We would walk in and tell them, hey, you said you wanted this, but you know what, it's a leadership issue, so don't hire us because we don't do leadership, consulting. So the key is that I don't do anything for anybody, so that helps me manage my time very closely. I only advise, so I look and I recommend, I just advise and I point to resources. The whole doing thing, that's when things get out of hand. Yes?
So Marguerite, what can one rain cops do for you?
Oh, I should have remembered you were gonna ask that question. Well, what you guys can do here in this room is give me your business card, and I would love to chat with each of you a little bit more, one-to-one level, if you're interested in doing that.
Great. Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
for being here.
And thank you for the tough questions, I appreciate that.
A cup for another night.
Oh, yay! Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last week,